I think it's, obviously you're talking about on paper. I think it's a little too early for that. I mean, I think our league's been top to bottom, been pretty good before. I'm not sure. I think the usual suspects, the ones that I remember from last year, are still going to be really good. Now, what does that mean for everybody else? I'm not sure about the newcomers. There's 2 new coaches in the league. I'm not sure. I think from our perspective, we hope to be fighting and making an impact in this league in terms of the regular season and the playoff championship. That's where my focus is. I haven't given a whole lot of thought to the league, but with that question, I'd say I think we've been top to bottom good before. I don't know if this year's any different.
Does it feel like coming into this year, you've had high expectations a couple other times
Mm-hmm.
in 2 years. Does it feel like this year, though, might be the highest expectations you've had?
I'm not sure. We were picked to win the league a couple of years ago and didn't do very well, in my mind. We do have high expectations for this year's team. There's no doubt about that. We've got some sophomores that are going to play a major role, but I feel outside of them being still a little bit young, they played a bunch of hockey for us as freshmen last year. So I think the expectations internally are high, probably as high, maybe not higher than that a couple of years ago was, but as high for sure. And I think that's a good thing. Again, we've talked about this at length. I want kids to come to Bowling Green for these expectations. And I believe that this year's team not only has those expectations, but has full belief that we can achieve and potentially exceed those expectations.
I want to ask you about Tyler Speed here, because he's playing up with Walleye.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of player are the Walleye getting, and how do you think his game will transition to the pro level?
They're getting a high energy player, a young guy that's going to show up every day and try to make an impact. I think he's a guy that should be exciting to watch just because of the way he skates. I feel like he's somebody that brings some energy to not only to the team every night, but to the building, which I know the building doesn't need a whole lot of energy because it's always got some pretty good energy. But I think he's a guy that they're going to enjoy having, and hopefully he has success there.
Who is come in as your leadership group so far this year?
Well, I feel like all the seniors, always all the seniors, and the 2 juniors that we have as part of the leadership group are Rahauser and Lucas Craigs. I feel like if something's going to go wrong with this year's team, that group of young people, our senior class, plus those 2 juniors can handle it. There's a little bit of voice of reason in there too. So I feel like they're guys that I can lean on. They're guys that have been around. They're guys that 100% can be that bridge between the locker room and the coaches, and that's what you want your leadership group to be. We haven't named a captain or assistant captains yet, but I feel like that may be a little bit overrated. Everybody wants to know, and we've got a leadership group. That leadership group includes the guys that have been around. Why those 2 juniors in particular? Well, we just feel like those are 2 guys that can be can contribute to the leadership. I think they're 2 guys that have played a bunch of hockey for us over the course of their time here. So I feel it's a great mix of guys. They all seem to get along pretty well. And like I say, if something's going to go wrong, that group of people can handle it. And they know that if they can't handle it, they'll come and hand it off to me and I'll handle it.
Talking to some of the preseason coach about the way this team's wired,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things you like about this program or this team in particular is the way these guys are wired. And what do you mean by that?
From a work ethic standpoint, they come to work every day, whether it's in the weight room or I mean, our grades have been good. This group did the best on our fitness test at any group that we've had. So their first and foremost impression, their first impression of the 18-19 team was really good. That's the wiring I'm talking about. The next wiring thing is going to be how resilient are they? What do they do when adversity hits? Is it going to be somebody else's fault when the lineup goes up and my name maybe not on it? So there's some things about this group that we have no idea how it's going to react yet. But what I like about the wiring that we think we've established is a work ethic. This group will work. Our practices are work. Our weight room sessions are about work. And like I say, the first impression we got was our annual fitness test, which this group did a nice job on. So that's what I'm referring to when I talk about wiring. It's how hard they're willing to work.
You've been on the cusp of the last several years, obviously all the way to the championship game. What do you think it's going to take for this team to break through that barrier?
You know, Clint, I've been thinking about that question because it's one I wish I had an answer for. I feel like it's going to take a won't be denied mentality. In the past, we've found a way for a game or a weekend or maybe a month to get in the way of the regular season. And then, you know, what it ended up doing is we had to go to Michigan Tech for that game, or we had to go to Northern Michigan last year for that series versus playing those games or, you know, here in BG. And we need to find a way to have that. We're not going to be denied. So it might be a series in November that we take our foot off the gas for half a second that costs us in the end, that we can't have that. Doesn't mean perfection, Clint. It just means not this group, not today, not now, not us. That mentality that this isn't going to happen to this group. We're not going to be the group that's close again. But there's going to be another team on the other side of the ice that has something to say about that. But that's what the exciting part about this time of year is. This 18-19 group, we get to start that journey together. And those are the things that we're talking about every day. Let's be the best version of ourselves today and not worry about tomorrow or yesterday. And that's easier said than done with kids this age. But it's the mentality that the group has throughout the course of the 6-month season that I think will be the difference. It's going to have to be the difference between this year and being close but not quite there.
With the loss of all the forwards, the senior class is scoring going to be the biggest challenge.
I think so, but I also feel like we've established our offense to be a collective effort. We've added a couple defensemen that can kind of take the pressure off Alec a little bit as far as the offense from the back end is concerned. Two guys that in Thea Chartis and Will Cullen that just bring offense. That's what they do. And we've got depth back there. If it's not those two, it'll be, you know, some returning guys. So I feel like we can replace the guys we lost from last year, maybe with some forwards, but with a couple of guys in the back end as well. And that's going to also hopefully have some better depth on the power play. Help us create more offense from a power play perspective and have a better power play percentage. But I feel like we can defend and we can goaltend with anybody. And so then the question becomes, well, where's the offense going to come from? And we think it's going to come from the collective, the group, like it has in the past.
What are you expecting from your goalie tandem this year, specifically Eric Dopp?
I'm expecting him to be more consistent than he was last year. Take a step from freshman year to sophomore year. Just exactly what he's expecting. We're not going to go into the season with a Friday night, Saturday night mentality like we did last year. But I feel like he needs to be more consistent than he was last year. When he was good, he was really good. And when he wasn't as good, a lot of that, some of the time was the team in front of him didn't play great. He was kind of left on an island a little bit. But there was some nights where I think there was some pucks that he'd like to have back. And over the course of the season, Ryan ended up taking that job over. But I look at opportunities that Eric took advantage of last year. The final game at the Great Lakes Invitational comes to mind. We beat Michigan Tech 4-1. Ryan struggled at the end of that Michigan game. So you go with Dopp, and he goes in there fully confident. He's a worker. And he's a boy that just expects great things from himself. So I think you can expect great things from him. And we have no reason to believe that he is not going to push Ryan from a number 1-2 perspective and bring a little bit more consistency than he did last year.
Assume that Ryan's your number 1 right now?
I think Ryan, it's fair to say that nothing has happened this fall to say he's not. He ended the year at number 1 last year. He comes into this year as number 1 now. What he does with that opportunity is going to be on Ryan, and that doesn't mean that he's going to play 9 out of 10 games. I still feel we've got depth in goal, and talking about Eric, I want him in there. What is that going to look like? I don't know yet, but I think it's fair to say going into the year, Ryan has earned his way into that number 1 job.
For your senior leadership, has there been a lesson in the past couple of years in what it takes to finally get over?
Well, you know, you'd probably have to ask those guys. You know, you try, right? a few years ago, we were 0.0001 or whatever it was away from the national tournament, so we get it on the back of the T-shirts, and we're going to focus on that. But that's not who we are. We're not a gimmicky bunch. This is a group that I think amongst that senior class, you'd have to ask them, how willing are they as a group to not leave this thing close, but not quite there, leave this program? And are you going to let anything get in the way of your senior year being great? That's something I feel like they have to decide. And that's why I have full confidence that they're deciding that and talking about that, and they're going to do that. But that's something that I think right now it's tough to tell. It's tough to say. They've done a nice job to this point of leading the way, whether it be on the ice or off. Do they know what happened at Tech in that double overtime game as sophomores? No. I mean, a guy from Tech scored and we didn't. I mean, that's what happened. Did they know what happened last year at Northern in overtime? Again, I think it's a culmination. It wasn't about that play. It was that game, that series shouldn't have been played in Northern. We should have earned our way to play games at home at that time. And that hopefully is the message. So over the course of the journey, which starts next Saturday, because the next part about that is the non-conference games that we've kind of let slip through our fingers, which have cost us national tournament at large situations. So I think it's when you're a senior, that's a lot of experiences that you need to pull from and learn from and kind of execute your senior year. But hopefully this group as a collective have talked about it enough to say this is going to be our year. We're going to kick that door down.
And what are you looking for from Mercyhurst this weekend?
From Mercyhurst?
Oh, yeah.
Zane, honestly, I'm looking for them to be as hungry to play, as excited to play as we are. That's it. I don't know much about their team. I don't know much about their personnel. Obviously, I can look and I can watch tape from last year and all that stuff. But I think they're going to be extremely hungry to play, extremely excited to play. They've had a long month of September just like we have. And other than that, I'm not sure what else to expect.
I kind of asked you about this before earlier, but pardon the pun, but if your sophomore group sort of suffers a sophomore slump, do you feel that your incoming freshmen are prepared to take a more expanded role?
No. If the sophomore class goes through a sophomore slump, it could be a long year for us because there's a bunch of them, and that's why there's a bunch of them. And there's 7, 8, 9 sometimes in the lineup, as many as that. I mean that's a big number. And the freshman class we have this year is just a small class. I don't look at those two classes being the focus. If the sophomores have a sophomore slump, I'm going to look at the seniors. I'm going to look at the juniors and say, where are you guys at in this? So unfortunately, because of the numbers, pure numbers of that class, you immediately look at them to be more than sophomores. But the fact is that they can't be. They're sophomores. And we have to act and treat them as such. Now, they've set the bar high for themselves. So all we expect is them to get to that level and maybe push that bar up, which is fair. Outside of that, this team will go as far as the seniors and the leadership group takes us.
Good.
Thanks for your time.